Hello everyone, welcome to another beer review. Now the good thing about today's video is it's a Sunday video, which means it's going to be hopefully a good beer. Well, it should actually be a good beer. I've not tried it, but we're back on the Palmer series again and we're starting to get into the kind of darker ales. And this one, because it's a darker ale, it should obviously be a good ale. No guarantee, of course, because we've had ones where basically we've had bitters and things like that and they've turned out to be kind of lame ducks. So hopefully this will be quite a good one. And if you have noticed, or maybe you haven't noticed, we've got a different mic. We're working with a different mic today. We did it on the previous video as well, but I forgot to mention it because, well, it was a Wednesday video and there was a lot of things to get through, and the last thing I needed to do was also kind of go through about the mic as well and just make that video longer than it already was, which was hell of a long. But we covered a few drinks in that last video, so at the end of the day we're only doing one today, so it should be a lot shorter, thank God. Anyway, I've not got time to spend hours basically chatting with yous and drinking. I've got other drinking to do because the football's coming on. But yeah, so hopefully this mic will be a bit better, because sometimes I've noticed when I've been recording, sometimes I'm getting kind of like concert hall kind of slightly kind of sounds with it, and other times I just feel that, you know, it's kind of pulsing a little bit sometimes, and you know, it just kind of the kind of volume and just the pickup kind of slightly pulses a bit. 1 minute it comes in a wee bit stronger and then it backs off again, and it just, what the hell's going on with that? And I don't know if it's the acoustics. I don't think so, because I've done some tests with this one and this isn't doing the same as the other mics, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, today we're doing Palmer's 2000 Premium Ale, which I don't know, I presume it's probably a kind of bitter or something like that, is it? I don't know. I've not had this one. What does it say? You've got the usual Palmer's kind of spiel in the back that I've read through in other videos, so I'm not going to keep reading it because I'm getting sick of it and I'm sure you're probably getting sick of it as well. I'm going to say 2000, it says 200. Created to celebrate 200 years of brewing, this former SEBA Southwest champion bottled beer is a full drinking delicious premium ale, rich and malty with just enough hop to make this Palmer's flagship ale. There you go, so just enough hop to make this Palmer's flagship ale. So there you go. So it might not be a bitter if it's gonna pull back on the old hop front, you know, just enough, you know, not because it bags off. So I think that might be miscalled that. So I presume it's going to be kind of slightly malt forward if it's down in the hops, but let's crack it open and find out. It's a great life, this, isn't it? So I've in the last video it was post-funeral, so now it is after the funeral. Yeah, that didn't actually kind of go to plan, although the funeral was actually quite nice, and it was a strange one though, because it's the first kind of non-religious funeral I've been to. There was a cremation, but it wasn't based around any religion and things like that. So there was no hymns, no prayers, none of that. It was just basically kind of, there was a woman up the front, and she was quite a nice speaker actually. She was quite a nice voice, and yeah, her intonation and everything else was quite nice. So she was quite good at what she was doing. But she was more like a kind of master of ceremonies. And the good thing about that was this, she just kind of talked through his life, really, and different points of his life, and kind of different milestones and things like that throughout my uncle's life. And it was quite interesting because I learnt some things that I didn't know, because obviously it was based around his family, and I knew obviously a lot about him from my dad's side of the family and things like that. But as I was actually going to the funeral, I was always thinking, I wonder what he was like as a dad, because he'd got 2 daughters, and I always wondered what was he like, because he was quite a good uncle, so I thought he'd probably be quite a good dad as well, because he's quite a funny guy. and quite witty and humorous and things like that. I always had a joke and things like that. So just always thought, and I was thinking about that, and then obviously it's a case as I got obviously my questions and thoughts answered during the kind of ceremony. Plus also they also had some nice photographs. They did a kind of display on a big screen of different photographs, and you know, that was really nice as well. And it was also playing some of his favourite music, so it was playing some Neil Diamond songs, and to be totally, it's probably one of the best funerals I've actually, I mean it's hard to kind of gauge things. Is any funeral good, you know, let's be totally honest, or enjoyable, but I would say maybe the best way, it's one of the best, how would you put it, celebration of the person's life, I would say, because some of these religious ones and everything else, with the hymns, that they can be quite dour and everything else, and they are kind of, you know, fire and brimstone and concentrating and all that type of stuff, and coming into the light, because you've all been in the dark, you're all sinners and all that kind of stuff, you know. Can't be bothered with that, because I'm not a religious man, you know. I was obviously learned my religion basically as a kid. My parents were quite kind of open that way. Basically, you go learn about religion, and then once you've learnt about it and you have a good understanding of it, it's up to you to make your decision what you want to do. Nobody's forcing you. If you want to continue it, that's fine. If you don't want to continue, that's fine, not a problem. So, you know, better to understand before you make the decisions. You know, give me the knowledge first, and then on you go. You can then make your own conscious decision. I agree with that. That's a good idea. And that's the same type of situation that I offer my own kids. If you want to learn about it, not a problem. If you don't, then don't. You know, that type of stuff. But yeah, so I quite liked that, because it was more of a celebration, and it also gave you a bit more of what the person was like. You know, these kind of dour hymns, you know, abide with me and the Lord's my shepherd, and oh Jesus, and you know, pissing at the flames at my feet. No, I don't think that was one, but it should have been, you know, because I'm going to hell, you know. But yeah, and it was quite good, because my dad quite liked Neil Diamond, so it also showed that there was also a kind of link between the brothers, because they had similar tastes in music, you know, even though there was a bit of a generational kind of gap and things like that. It was still quite good, and you kind of felt it was more about the person rather than more about the religion and the kind of minister or priest or whatever you've got basically in front of you telling me that you're a sinner, and if you don't do what we tell you, then you'll go to whatever hell or whatever kind of bad thing that's always there to kind of, you know, that stick that they always kind of utilise to try and get you to do what they want, you know, that manipulation trick. But anyway, no, it was actually quite good. The downside of it was at the wake, because unfortunately one of my aunts took ill. I think she's okay. I'm not really kind of sure, because things have went kind of quiet on that front. I've not really heard anything for about a day, so I know they were doing further tests and things like that, and we never get any kind of update. Well, I never get any update, so I don't know what's happened with that now. So hopefully she's okay. But yeah, she took a bit of a bad turn at the week, and unfortunately she had to be, well, they got the paramedics in, and they weren't particularly happy with how she was, so they took her away for further tests and things like that in the hospital, and then kept her in and everything else, and it's like, oomph. So yeah, that's a bit of a kind of, you know, a dampener on the situation. Not that is a case so that that wakes are supposed to be fun and enjoyable, but if you've got a character, you know, that you're basically celebrating their life, then there's usually lots of stories to tell and lots of funny kind of escapades and things like that. So it can be quite enjoyable in its own right, just kind of reminiscing about the person. And then that kind of happens, and of course, you know, it's the younger sister of the person you've just kind of buried or cremated or whatever, and it just really does take the kind of edge off it a bit. So it does. It just like, you feel that, you know, after she gets taken away in the ambulance, you feel that you just don't want to really kind of continue now. You just feel like, I think it's better to end it here, that type of scenario. So yeah, it was unfortunate, But hopefully, you know, my Aunt Roberta will make a full recovery, and everything will be okay with her. But yeah, life, isn't it? You know. And the good thing about coping with life, because life does bring problems and issues and that type of stuff. And one of the best things I've always found is glasses of liquid that come in bottles, but even better if they come in the pub. Now, smell wise, because we are back on the beer now, but I just thought I'd kind of fill you in, because I just thought, well, it was interested in the funeral side of it, and then unfortunately you had the kind of bugger hell, that's not going well, is it? Kind of downside. But I'll tell you that though, she does live down in Bridgend in Wales with her family, and I can understand, maybe, I mean, I'm not saying she was feigning kind of illness and that type of stuff, but I would feign illness to try and avoid going to back to Bridgend, you know. I'd just stay in Scotland. That's what I would have done, you know, because Bridgend's a shithole, it really is. I didn't really want to say it in front of them, but our boys were there as well, my cousins, and they said it was a shithole as well. I mean, I tried to kind of be kind of diplomatic and that type of stuff, but the minute they were calling it a shithole, I thought it was a bit of a shithole as well, actually, you know. Anyway, so yeah, maybe that's the reason she just didn't want to go back down there, and who could blame her, you know. Smell wise, it's malt. That's what you're getting. You get slight toffee notes, slightly caramel notes. Yeah, you just get some really just nice malty notes. No hops, and you just maybe picking a little bit of that kind of sweeter accents, maybe slightly kind of syrupy kind of aftertone. And yeah, it smells very inviting. I always got to say is that malt forward beers have got a nice malty smell. It does. It's inviting. It's like, you just want to dive in, you know. Right. Oh, that's nice. Oh yeah. It's slightly reminiscent of a Scottish ales of the past. Probably a little bit more hops in the mid-tongue than you would get. There's a little bit of hoppiness in the mid-tongue that you wouldn't normally get in a kind of traditional Scots ale, like a heavy or something like that. But it has similar flavour tones, especially at the front of the mouth, and also kind of towards the back end. But yeah, just it kind of changes a little bit, because you get a little bit more hops coming through in the mid-tongue. But overall, a very nice beer, actually. Nicely balanced. Oh yeah, very nice indeed. So yeah, to make sure I'm getting more out of the bottle, because it's important, you know. But it's important for me anyway. So yeah, so this is the football to go to tomorrow. First home game of the season. You know. So I'm looking forward to that. We actually did quite well in Europe, so we did earlier on in the week. So because we've got the return leg at home next week, this is Dundee United, by the way, the situation is that we're all kind of gearing up for the first home game of the season, and now it's kind of turned into a bit of an anticlimax, because obviously we're running quite a few injuries in the team right now, and the big problem is we don't really want to kind of push our players too much in the game tomorrow, and then end up having a knock-on effect in the European game next Thursday. So I'm kind of, we're all kind of thinking, as we're speaking with the fans online and things like that, we're all of much of the muchness that we'd rather put some of the younger players out and just give them a wee run out. And if we end up losing the first home game of the season, then it's not too bad. I don't think anybody would be really that particularly worried, especially if we get the result we want next Thursday. I know it's a bit of a gamble and things like that, but it's giving yourself the best chance, because obviously we want to progress in Europe, but we also want to do well in the league. But of course there's a heck of a lot more games in the league, and it wouldn't be the worst case scenario if we could basically, put a younger team and scrape a draw, or maybe just kind of lose, just lose or something like that, or be a close fought game and just lose and things like that. So, but we'll see what happens. But it'll be absolutely rocking. The stadium will be absolutely rocking, because it's an absolute, obviously, sellout, because it's the first home game of the season, and next Thursday is a complete sellout as well. Not a ticket to be had. It's good. And one of the things that goes very well with beer is football. Football goes well with beer. Beer goes well with football. And a beer and a pie and football really do go well together. It's like the trifecta of happiness for a man, so it is. Unless you're not into football, and you enjoy whichever girly sports you want to enjoy. That would probably get a few hackles up, but buggies. So yeah, it is one of these things that kind of go hand in hand. Unfortunately, a lot of it's crappy beer. You do notice that there's a lot of tenants up here drunk during football matches and things like that. Although one of the things is you can't actually drink during the game. That's one of the things with Scottish football. You can't drink alcohol during the game. You can drink it before it at the stadium. You can drink it afterwards. Obviously in the bars, at the stadiums. But you cannot basically buy beer and sit down and watch the football, with a plastic cup of beer. Which is crazy, because when you play in Europe, you're going to places and you can have a beer, or if you're playing pre-season friendlies away from, you can do all that, and it's fine. But they don't want to do it in Scotland because they don't trust us in Scotland. But when they say they don't trust us, it's not so much about teams like Dundee United and the kind of other ones. It's the two ugly sisters. It's a problem. And my view is, what I don't like is, why punish us? Why the hell should we all be punished because of Rangers and Celtics fans' bad behaviour? It's that old situation, is if one section does things that are wrong or out of control, instead of dealing that one section, the authorities now are just so bloody lazy. It's just a case of, it's a blanket ban for everybody. You should all be punished, you know what I mean? And it's just unfair. It just shows you get paid to do a job, and you don't do it. You just do the bare minimum, and that's it. And that's the thing that really kind of bugs me. And it's not just in, of course, organisations like police and the judiciary and other authorities and things like that. It's the same in private companies. All management is a path of least resistance. And they're all a bunch of lazy, useless buggers, you know what I mean? Let's be totally honest. And I just think that's crazy that all the rest of the fans in football miss out. And let's be totally honest, the football clubs are missing out on additional revenue from selling pints and things like that at the football, because of Rangers and Celtic fans. Because, of course, if they're drinking that, they might get absolutely, totally shit-faced during the match, that they'll end up start fighting. Which is, I think, it's a complete load of bollocks, because a lot of them are basically sneaking in half bottles of vodka and whiskey and God knows what else. That's what I think is ridiculous. I mean, you're supposed to get searched going into the football. Half the time it's a bloody joke, you know what I mean? It's like a pat on the head and a peck on the cheek is really what you get, It's like unbelievable, seriously. So they are drinking it anyway. But the thing is, they're bringing in their own alcohol, which again, there's your problem. I mean, see if you policed it properly by actually doing proper searching of people going in to remove any alcohol from the stadium, but then you can control it, because if somebody's inebriated, you can tell that. Well, you don't sell them any alcohol at the what do you call it, and if he wants to make a scene or a protest about it, well, the police can just huckle him and kick him out. There you go, thank you very much, sorted. But that's people doing their jobs, that's people doing what they get paid for. Whereas, no, it's better to say, right, what we're going to do is ban it. You're not allowed to drink alcohol at Scottish football games, especially during the match, and what we'll do is we won't actually search them properly when they come in there, and then they can bring in whatever they want, uncontrolled, and they can just get wired into that. And hey, what's the worst that can happen? What can happen? So there you go. So it's absolutely madness. Down in England they do it, all across Europe they do it, but no, in Scotland we miss out, and it's annoying. It really is. It's the same situation as you go to a fast food restaurant, you can't get beer in the UK, but you can go into Europe and all McDonald's and KFC's and Burger King's all sell beer, same as in Russia and things like that. I used to go there sometimes with the wife, to KFC or Burger King, and she's actually having a burger and all that, and I'm just having a couple of fries, and it's 2 for 1 in the lagers and that type of stuff, and it's some kind of decent ones like Sibirski Corona and things like that. So yeah, you should just sit there with 2 beers, maybe a wee poke of chips, and that's what I like about it. You step out of the UK and guess what? You can be treated like an adult. I remember basically first time I went to the cinema in Russia, I'm sitting with 2 beers in my hand, actually inside, and I'm thinking, Jesus, people will sneak this in. They'll go buy themselves a big tub of Coke, especially the women, go to the toilet, pour half of it out, and then basically put a quarter bottle of vodka in it. There you go, and they're sitting there sucking vodka and Coke throughout the movie. It's just stupid. It really is. It's a case as though the authorities here, there's just blanket ban everything, blanket ban everything, because hey, we can't be trusted for actually, implementing proper kind of procedures that are going to prevent any issues or problems, and it's too difficult anyway because we're lazy bastards. It's just, that's what annoys me, and that's one of the things that I find is wrong with this country, is that there is certain minorities in the country that spoil it for everybody, but the reason they spoil it for everybody is because they're allowed to by the authorities. Let's be totally honest. Madness. So in Scotland, when you go to the football, you get football in a pie and a bovril, which they call it bovril. Most of the time it's just a kind of a cup with little bits of crumbled up oxo cube. So there you go, we're living the dream. So we break down these flavours. Very nice, this, very nice. Yeah, very nice. And I've looked into buying some beers, because obviously I'm going down, not next week but the week after, down to Peterborough for the Peterborough Beer Festival. And I thought I'll take some beers down, and I thought, right, I'll order some of these beers. So having a look online about ordering them, one thing I noticed is there's no delivery fee. So even you buy one kind of 12 pack, there's no delivery fee on top of that. It's just, that's what you pay and it's delivered. I think, seriously. So I'm going to order some to take down to that, just to kind of, for a wee kind of additional kind of drinking beverage when we're just kind of sitting about afterwards, before it, or when we're recovering, hair of the dog type of thing. That's one of the things that kind of stood out to me when I was just having a kind of perusal of what's available to buy online to get delivered, because I don't know if I'm going to be down that area over towards Bridport to actually get it before then, because the problem is it depends, because there's a good chance I'll be travelling down from Scotland. I'll be down to obviously Devon before then, but obviously I'm not going to be down there for all that time, so at the end of the day I might not get a chance. We'll see what happens, but I've looked at it about the delivery side of it, so that's not a big problem, so that's kind of done. But flavour wise with this, straight away you get some lovely malts at the start. You are getting the little caramel tones, you are getting the toffee tones. It's a nice bit of sweetness there and a nice bit of grain, and overall it's really just a nice, really malt forward start to the beer. Really nice. Moves onto my tongue, and you would probably think that sweetness you know, because it's malt forward, you've got to watch, because that sweetness can kind of run away with you a little bit. You know, if it's just constant all the way from front to back, it can be a bit sickening and things like that. But that's a good thing, because as it moves onto the mid-tongue, you just start getting these little kind of hop accents, just ever so slight, kind of very light floral accents, and maybe a little bit of bitterness, little very, very light bitterness. But what it does is it just takes the edge off that kind of malty sweetness. So you still get the nice kind of maltiness, but the sweetness is just kind of obviously died down a bit just because of the introduction of these kind of hop accents. And again, they're very light. They're not overbearing. It doesn't take it away from being a malt forward beer. It doesn't really provide too much hoppiness. It's more of a, basically, it's not there to really provide flavour. It's there to provide more of a balance, and just to kind of ramp back some of the kind of sweetness and the maltiness, so it doesn't become too sickening. It doesn't start running away with itself. But when you move into the kind of the back end, the hops don't really play a part. You think, well, this is going to ramp up maybe at the back end and start giving you more of a, you know, bitter tones at the back end, and it doesn't. Everything just stays very much of a muchness, and then it's a kind of nice kind of clean finish. There's still plenty of malt there at the back of the mouth, and again, just very light hop accents, no real bitterness there at all. And yeah, it just helps just to balance things out, and it's just a nice malt forward beer. It really is. And if it didn't have these kind of tones, because of there's a little additional sweetness to it, that you wouldn't get in a normal Scotch ale, and then it can be kind of balanced out by the hops mid-tongue. That's what changes it. That's the thing that doesn't kind of attune with a kind of a traditional Scottish ale like a heavy. But yeah, overall a very nice beer, actually very drinkable beer. It's 5%, you know. And I like a malt forward beer. And yeah, it's just a nice drinkable beer. It really is very enjoyable. Very enjoyable indeed. So, what would I give this out of 10? Well, price would maybe come into it, but this was nicely donated by Adrian, because he basically donated the tasting pack, and it was very much appreciated. Thank you. So I'm not going to bring price into it. So I'm not. So it's a very, very nicely brewed beer, nicely balanced. It's malt forward, so it's coming from all the areas that I enjoy, so it's ticking the boxes. It's a nice dark beer. It doesn't have any bitterness, but that's fine. I'm not looking for bitterness all the time. You know, I'm looking for bitter if I'm drinking a beer that's supposed to have bitter, but if I'm drinking a beer that's not supposed to have a bitterness edge to it, then that's fine. I don't see it as a problem. But it's got a nice level of sweetness that's actually controlled, especially in the mid-tongue, so like I says, it doesn't run away from itself. And overall, yeah, it'd be nice to have this in cask. It really would, because it's nice in the bottle, and it's got a nice mouth feel and everything else, and you're thinking, well, I'm thinking to myself, well, if it's like this in the bottle, imagine what it's going to be like in the cask. You know, that's the reality. So on that basis, I'm going to give this an 8. It really is. It's just on the button for me. It really is. 8 out of 10. And I think what we've got left, we've got next Wednesday, it will probably be the Golden Ale. Is it Dorset Gold or something like that, from the Palmer's Tasting Pack. I've actually done it before, but I can't quite remember what it was like. I did it ages ago, years ago. So I'm going to do it again just to see what it's like, and it'll be interesting to see if it gets the kind of same score as I gave it previously, or is it gone down, or is it gone up. You never know. And I'm trying to think, what whiskey will I do? Woodsman. We'll do Woodsman. Alright, Woodsman. There we go, that's what we'll do. We'll do a Diageo blended whiskey. And yeah, we'll do the Dorset Gold for next Wednesday. But yeah, if you're at a loose end and you're thinking, fancy maybe trying a beer that I've not tried before, have a look at Palmer's, because the prices are kind of very similar to everywhere else, but without having the delivery fee and everything else, or telling you must buy a certain amount or up to a certain value to get free delivery. No, I quite like that, so fair play to them. So yeah, it's Palmer's 200 Premium Ale, and it's 500ml, it's 5%, it got 8 out of 10. Thank you very much, cheers, and bye for now.